Wait. Did I seriously just see what I think that I just saw? Lapis and Jasper's gemstones somehow both grow to be bigger than a watermelon Steven after they would fuse with each other and form malachite all the way back during the season 1 finale.
Finally.
This isn't just some kind of design oversight with malachite either. I mean, it's clear as day to see. Whenever a gem enters a fusion and becomes a bigger than average woman, then the gemstones will always expand in size.
God, forgive me.
The crystal gems will make up the fusions of obsidian, alexandrite, sigillite, opal, and even sunstone all have slightly to massively bigger gemstones whenever they're formed.
You better step off!
Now this is a huge deal because we were originally led to believe by the writers that the gemstone was the single most important part of a gem, the core of the gem's very being, and the one part that was impossible to change.
No, it's okay. Don't worry, Sapphire. I'm gonna go out and find Ruby.
What?
I mean, seriously, think back to the brutal events of the season 5 episode titled What's Your Problem?
Let's try putting ourselves in Ruby's shoes.
When Amethyst would admirably try her best to cheer up our boy Steven after Pink Diamond's true identity would get exposed.
And I'm not responsible for what Rose did. None of us are.
Yeah, despite the fact that Amethyst was the single best shapeshifter on the entire show, she has notably never been able to alter her gemstone at all.
Maybe Ruby shapeshifted really small. Oh, you never know.
So much so that the writers would demonstrate this reality with a pretty funny gag.
Amethyst, you know I love these great goofs, but I'm worried about Ruby.
So how in the world could these two opposing truths exist at the exact same time? Why can't gems change the size of their gemstones on their own by shapeshifting or thinking about it, even though they are very much still able to achieve this by simply fusing with enough gems and, you know, becoming a slightly bigger woman?
All you wanna do is see me turn into
a giant woman.
Well, while I know that it would be extremely easy for us to just write this one off as being another plot hole or sleeper by Rebecca Sugar and the rest of the Croniverse, I've actually gathered up a ton of evidence that will perfectly explain why it makes complete sense that a gem would only be able to change the size and color of her gemstones during the process of fusion.
You'll have to go through me.
Huh? And me.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the vast majority of you notice that a gem's gemstone changes in color to match the color palette of their fusion much quicker than you realize that their size also changes. But this definitely does add an entirely new layer to our big mystery.
Well then, I will try.
When gems choose to come together and become fusions, they're not just creating a brand new being out of thin air. No, that would be too simple.
But at least I've got you. And you've got me. So stop leaving me out of this.
Us worst gems stick together, right?
That's why we're the best.
We know for a fact that when gems fuse, they are also paradoxically transforming into a singular gem that has already existed.
You what?
Now, what in the world do I really mean when I say that a new gem fusion is also somehow a gem that has already existed? Well, do you remember when Blue Diamond would go out of her way to confront our girl Garnet about the fact that she was trying to pass herself off as being a real Garnet during the season 5 episode titled Together Alone?
Whoa. Are you talking about Garnet?
Be kind with your words, please.
Garnet? Does that call herself a Garnet?
This is low even for you!
This scene, along with the canonical inclusion of a new gem called Hessonite Garnet in the Steven Universe Unleashed the Light game, confirmed the insane idea that single gem versions of cross gem fusions actually existed on the show, which is honestly still one of the wildest revelations that the creative minds behind the series have ever dropped, and something that we've already explored here on the channel in detail during one of my previous videos. But in the context of a big mystery that we're about to solve, we now know that gems don't just make up the names of their fusions on the spot, but instead all somehow emerge with that knowledge implanted inside of their very gemstones.
I think a rose quartz and an amethyst make a smoky quartz.
Think about it like this, our girl Amethyst somehow automatically knew back during the season 3 episode titled Earthlings that a rose quartz and an amethyst made a smoky quartz.
When we get to the barn, I'm building a giant metal yo-yo.
Lapis Lazuli and Jasper somehow automatically knew back during the season 2 episode titled Chilla Tate that a Lapis Lazuli and a Jasper made a malachite.
We're malachite now.
But wait! There's more!
Let's be malachite again.
Now, to be fair, in Lapis and Jasper's case, you could argue that both of them, being high-ranking gems, had simply just seen a Homeworld malachite in action before they'd fuse, and recognized that they looked incredibly similar to a malachite.
You three knew I was in there, and you didn't do anything. Did you even wonder who I used to be?
But this line of logic admittedly doesn't really work with Smoky Quartz, because Amethyst, being a gem who had never left the Earth and visited other areas of the universe with more gems until the events of a season 4 episode titled Adventures in Light Distortion.
But how are we going to get there?
With the roaming eye.
The ruby ship?
Would have most likely never even gotten the chance to meet a single gem version of Smoky Quartz until she'd get the chance to travel to Homeworld with the rest of the crystal gems during the season 5 episode titled Legs from Here to Homeworld.
Really?
Oh, what?
The point is that Amethyst was most likely able to access the knowledge inside of her gemstone that a rose quartz and an amethyst made a Smoky Quartz, which would also explain why her gemstone was able to easily identify the proper size and color that it should change into in order for Amethyst to become part of an authentic Smoky Quartz.
This is all very nice, but it doesn't solve the mystery.
The gemstone of a gem has been confirmed to have mainly been an advanced piece of technology, and is it really that far-fetched for an advanced piece of technology to store and access information? I mean, that's honestly like the bare minimum, right?
She's using the warps right now.
So yeah, I'm thinking that when gems fuse, for some mysterious reason, the gemstones will automatically choose to completely change its size and color in order for it to accurately become whichever gem that it is transforming into.
Why isn't it possible? It's just not. Why not, you stupid bastard?
Now, while this idea that I've been cooking up seems to answer the big question that I raised at the beginning of this video, it does unfortunately have a reasonably big flaw that opens up two even crazier questions, and I'm sure that some of you have already caught at least one of them.
A rose quartz and an amethyst make a smoky quartz.
Finally!
First of all, Smoky Quartz isn't simply just the fusion of a rose quartz and an amethyst, but instead the fusion of pink diamond and an amethyst. And secondly, why in the universe are gems programmed to have their gemstones grow bigger under any circumstances, especially when you consider the fact that according to Peridot during the season 2 episode titled It Could Have Been Great, they were definitely supposed to have been viewed as being the perfect vessels for colonizing other planets.
We're gems? We're a spacefaring race designed to conquer other worlds.
Again, just so that we're on the same page, the gemstone of a gem is basically their entire being, which also means that it is their weak point, a weak point that can break on some occasions under very little pressure, mind you. So yeah, how does it make sense to design an entire species of planet-conquering aliens with a side effect of having their weak point grow bigger whenever they choose to use one of the most powerful abilities in their arsenal?
This is the worst!
Circling back to our first new question, which was about the fact that Smoky Quartz as we knew them wasn't technically the fusion of a rose quartz and an amethyst, but instead the fusion of pink diamond and an amethyst. The truth is that I'm entirely convinced that we should be able to come to the conclusion that if amethyst were to fuse with an actual authentic rose quartz instead of Steven, then their fusion would resemble and function in an incredibly similar manner to our Smoky Quartz. This is because we know that pink diamond and pearl work together to design the rose quartz gems to cover up their secret visits to the Earth, along with the truth behind the entire gem rebellion.
Yeah, she made them. This is all we have left of her. These gems, this place, and the Earth.
So you know, it shouldn't be that far-fetched for us to also assume that Pearl, being as analytical of a gem as she was, most likely made sure that there was practically no difference between a real rose quartz and pink diamond, at least on the surface. We've recently talked about the fact that Yellow Diamond insanely wasn't able to tell that she was staring directly at the gemstone of who was basically her own sister, which says a lot about how thorough that Pink Diamond and Pearl truly were when it came to designing the rose quartz gems to cover up the truth truth. And yeah, as for our second new mystery being the question of why gems were made with the ability to have their gemstones, which were their weak points, grow in the first place, the only answer that makes sense here is that the diamonds genuinely didn't know about this design flaw themselves, which I can understand might sound like I'm just trying to take the easy way out, but seriously. Think back to the events of a season 5 episode titled Change Your Mind. Yellow, blue, and white diamond didn't know that they were capable of corrupting gems.
What am I looking at?
Heck, they didn't even know what corruption was, despite the fact that they were canonically the first gems in existence.
We blasted the planet and obliterated every gem on its surface.
If the diamonds aren't even sure about how their own powers work, then it makes sense that gems were made with strange quirks like being forced to cycle through all of their past forms every time that they reformed, and being forced to having their gemstones grow bigger whenever they fuse with enough gems. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this discussion, and I'm really hoping that Last of Us stars will be able to find the time to reveal the truth behind the information that was implanted inside of the gemstones of every gem, because I'm sure that it's another worthy contender to get called out as being one of the darkest secrets of a fallen gem empire.